At exactly 2:17 a.m., his phone vibrated. One message, just 3 words. Check your account. His hands froze. His heart started racing because 3 hours ago, he was almost broke. And now, something impossible had just happened. He didn't open the message immediately. Fear, excitement, confusion, all mixed together because deep down, he knew. If this was real, his life would never be the same again. 3 years ago, this same person sat alone in a dark room. No money, no opportunities, no direction, just silence, and one dangerous thought. What if I try something no one believes in? Everyone around him chose safety. Stable jobs, predictable lives, normal routines, but something inside him refused to accept that future. He wanted something more, even if he didn't know how yet. And then one day, something strange happened. He noticed a problem so small, everyone ignored it. People complained about it, daily, but no one tried to fix it. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Why does this problem exist? Why has no one solved it? And the most dangerous question of all, what if I could solve it? That night, he opened his phone, not for entertainment, not for distraction, but for answers. He started researching, learning, exploring possibilities he had never considered before. What he discovered shocked him. Most billion-dollar businesses didn't start big. They started with problems this small, problems people thought didn't matter. Suddenly, his idea didn't feel small anymore. It felt dangerous because small ideas have one hidden power. They grow quietly until it's too late to ignore them. But doubt attacked immediately. His mind whispered, "You're not ready. You don't have money. You don't have experience." And for a moment, he believed it. He almost gave up that night, almost closed his phone, almost returned to his normal life, almost became like everyone else. But something stopped him. It wasn't confidence, it wasn't certainty, it was curiosity. He needed to know what would happen if he tried. The next morning, he made his first move. It was small, invisible, insignificant to everyone else, but to him, it was the beginning of something irreversible. Days passed, nothing happened, no success, no money, no validation, just silence. This is where most people quit, because the beginning feels like failure. It feels like nothing is working. It feels like you made a mistake. But he noticed something strange. Tiny signals, small reactions, little signs. Something was moving, something was changing. It wasn't fast, it wasn't dramatic, but it was real. And that's when he realized this idea was alive. Weeks later, something unexpected happened. Someone he didn't know showed interest, a stranger, someone who believed before anyone else did. That moment changed everything because belief is contagious. When one person believes, others follow. But success didn't come immediately. In fact, something worse happened. He faced his first major failure. Everything slowed down, progress disappeared, doubt returned, fear grew stronger. He had a choice: quit and return to safety, or continue into uncertainty. This was the most dangerous moment of his life because most dreams don't die at the beginning. They die right here. He took a deep breath and made a decision. That decision would change everything. 3 years later, at exactly 2:17 a.m., his phone vibrated, and this time, the screen shows a massive balance update. He didn't move for several seconds after seeing the payment. His mind was frozen between disbelief and realization. This wasn't imagination anymore. Someone had actually paid for something he created alone, in silence, without permission from anyone. He slowly placed the phone down, staring at the wall, trying to understand what had just changed. Because deep inside, he knew this wasn't just money, this was evidence. Evidence that his idea had crossed the invisible barrier between doubt and reality. That night, he sat in complete darkness, not turning on the lights. He wanted to feel the moment fully, every second of uncertainty, every second of fear. Because fear was still there. The payment didn't remove fear, it amplified it. Now he wasn't afraid of failing. He was afraid of losing momentum. Afraid that this moment could disappear as suddenly as it appeared. He checked his phone again, making sure it was still real. Success doesn't arrive loudly, it arrives quietly. The next morning, he woke up earlier than usual. Not because he had to, but because his mind refused to rest. This was no longer a private experiment, this was exposure. And exposure creates pressure. Because once people start watching, expectations begin forming. And expectations can either build your future or break your confidence completely. He realized he had entered unknown territory. There was no guide, no roadmap, no guarantee. Every decision he made now would shape what happened next. He wasn't protected by invisibility anymore. Before, failure had no witnesses. Now every mistake would be visible, permanent, recorded. And that pressure felt heavier than anything before. He wasn't just building something, he was protecting something fragile, something new, because survival after the first success is harder than surviving failure itself. Hours passed without him realizing it. His attention was locked onto his creation, watching it, and then it did. Another notification appeared, not a payment this time. Someone was exploring, someone was curious. Then a strange message arrived from an unknown account. Nice concept. How long have you been running this? More like someone studying him. He didn't want to sound weak, because deep down he sensed something dangerous. When people notice a growing idea, not everyone comes to support. Some come to take. He sat down and drew a survival map. Then his phone buzzed again, same unknown account. New message, let's talk, I have an offer. He stared at the screen, knowing this next reply could change everything. He looked at the message again. Limited access. The words looked harmless, simple, professional, but something inside him felt uncomfortable. Because access means visibility, and visibility means exposure. He knew once someone saw how everything worked, nothing would be secret anymore. He sat still, asking himself one question. Was he about to accelerate his future or quietly lose control of it forever? He didn't answer immediately. He stood up and walked around the room slowly. This room had seen everything, the doubt, the struggle, the silence, and now this decision. He remembered why he started alone, not for speed, not for shortcuts, but for ownership. And ownership loses strength the moment you depend on someone else too early. Hours later, he replied. Carefully, calmly, he agreed to limited access, nothing more. He told himself he was still in control, still the creator, still the owner. But deep inside, he knew control isn't something you announce. Control is something you protect. At first, everything felt normal. They asked simple questions, professional questions, respectful questions. They sounded supportive, interested, helpful, and slowly, his idea didn't feel alone anymore. It felt like it had attention, validation, importance, and that feeling made him lower his guard without realizing it. Days passed. Their questions became less frequent. Their messages became shorter. Their presence became quieter. At first, he thought nothing of it, but silence after access feels different, heavier, suspicious. One night, he saw something that froze him completely. Another version, a familiar version, his idea, but not from him. His chest tightened instantly because he understood what had happened, without needing confirmation. They didn't help him grow, they studied him. He allowed access, he allowed visibility, he allowed vulnerability, and now he had to live with that reality. Growth slowed down, momentum weakened, and momentum is fragile. Once broken, it takes strength to rebuild. They copied his system, but they couldn't copy his experience because systems can be copied, but builders cannot. He opened a system again, not as someone defeated, but as someone transformed. He wasn't chasing speed anymore. He was building strength. He sat in complete silence. Pause. Not because he was lost, but because he was no longer the same person. Pause. The fear that once controlled him was gone. The doubt that once weakened him had no power anymore. Pause. Because he had already survived the worst part. He had already lost control and taken it back again. Pause. And that changes a person forever. It forces you to grow beyond fear, pause beyond hesitation, beyond the version of yourself that once needed permission to begin. He opened his system again. Pause slowly, pause carefully, respectfully, pause. Not like a beginner anymore, pause, but like a builder. Because now he understood every part of it. Pause. Every weakness, pause, every strength. Every mistake had become knowledge. Pause. And knowledge is something nobody can steal from you. He stopped chasing fast results and pause. He stopped comparing himself to others. Instead, he started building intelligently. Pause. He strengthened the foundation. He improved the experience. Pause. He made it stronger. Pause. More reliable, more real. Days passed. Pause. Nothing dramatic happened. Pause. Just quiet improvement. Quiet growth. Pause. Quiet progress. Pause. And that's how real businesses are built. People stayed longer. Pause. People trusted more. Pause, because trust compounds slowly. And once it becomes strong, pause, it becomes unstoppable. He no longer feared competition. Pause, because he understood the truth now. Ideas can be copied, said pause, but understanding cannot. Pause, experience cannot, growth cannot. He remembered the night he almost quit. Pause. That night had defined everything, because quitting would have been easy. Pause. But continuing had changed his entire life. His idea was no longer fragile. Pause. It was no longer invisible. Pause. It had become real. Success isn't a moment. Pause. It's a transformation. Pause. That begins quietly and grows stronger every day.